Hi, I'm Rich Miller. At Virtua, we believe citizens need to be informed about the important healthcare issues affecting their lives. That's why we're proud to support healthcare programming produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation and their partners in public television.
Funding for this edition of Caucus, New Jersey has been provided by TD Bank, Virtua, NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology, United Water. Making the planet sustainable is the best job on earth. New Jersey Sharing Network, dedicated to saving lives through organ and tissue donation. Cohn Resnick, Accounting, Tax, and Advisory, where forward thinking creates results. And by United Airlines. Promotional support provided by NJ.com. Small news, big news, true Jersey. And by New Jersey Monthly, the magazine of the Garden State, available at newsstands.
Hi, I'm Steve Adubato. We are pleased to welcome back our good friend Rodger DeRose, who is the president and CEO of Kessler Foundation. Good to see you, Rodger.
Thank you, Steve.
Rodger, since the last time we talked, something very significant has happened. There has been a survey that the Kessler Foundation has led that is very important. Talk about it.
Well, thanks for featuring this issue and the survey as well, Steve, on your show for your viewers. This is the 25th anniversary of the signing of the Americans with Disabilities Act, and it happens on July 26th. And so one of our contributions to this significant milestone is conducting this survey that is really focused on the work experiences of people with disabilities and how they overcome many of the barriers that they face as they enter into the workplace. And this particular survey is different from other surveys that have been done in the past, in that those surveys have only really focused on the gaps, the major issues that people with disabilities have had, but not how they've overcome them in the workplace. And that's what this survey has done. And it shows the hopefulness of people with disabilities as they continue to strive for work. And that's the key takeaway from this. That's the headline, is people with disabilities are striving to work. They want to make a contribution to their family, to society, and to the community at large.
Rodger, as we put up the website for the foundation, tell everyone exactly what the foundation is and what you're dedicated to.
Sure. Kessler Foundation is all about helping to change the lives of people with disabilities. Everyone knows Kessler Institute as one of the leading medical rehabilitation centers in the country and the world. Kessler Foundation has a mission that is focused on research, medical research, that is creating new medical interventions for brain and spinal cord injured patients, for stroke patients, for MS patients, multiple sclerosis patients. But we don't stop there. We also work on how do we engage people with disabilities back into the community and the family, and that's where we invest a significant amount of funds in terms of employment initiatives to demonstrate to corporations, to small businesses, to other organizations that people with disabilities can make a shareholder contribution to those organizations.
Kessler Foundation is, in fact, one of the underwriters of the work that we do at the Caucus Educational Corporation in terms of trying to understand more about the issues you're talking about. But this survey that Kessler Foundation commissioned, if you will, found the following. I want you to talk about this. The key finding is that nearly 69% of people with disabilities are striving to work. Now, was that surprising, or is that surprising to people?
It was, and I think it is to the disability community, to politicians who are legislators that are creating the public benefits program that, you know, we should probably talk about as well, Steve. But the other part of it is that when we talk about striving to work, we're talking about vigorously pursuing something. And I think the myth, Steve, is that people with disabilities only want to accept the public benefits that are bestowed on them and stay at home and not participate in the workforce. And so striving to work, preparing for the job, education, training, searching for the job in terms of networking with family members, going directly to corporations, working with the rehabilitation organizations in the state, and then actually working and seeking more hours in the job as well. Those are all components that I think show the determination of people with disabilities in wanting to work for the reasons I mentioned before.
But Rodger, the survey also found that people with disabilities are encountering specific barriers. The three top barriers: not enough education or training, or the people, I guess there's an assumption that there's not enough education or training, employers' assumption that they couldn't do the job, or lack of transportation. Are these real barriers, perceived barriers? What?
Yeah, the myths in once an individual that enters the workforce with a disability is that they oftentimes find that the manager and coworkers don't believe that they can actually do the job because of the disability.
So they're not even given the chance?
Well, they may get into the assignment, but they're not perceived as being able to do the assignment until they demonstrate and prove it. So that's how they're overcoming that barrier. Once they get into the assignment, that they can actually do the job, be as productive, working side by side, being held accountable for the same metrics, hopefully getting the same pay. But we have found that there is some disparity in terms of the pay that people with disabilities have.
Did the survey find that?
Yes, yes.
That there's disparity in pay?
Yes, yeah. And so the transportation issue is always another issue that comes up. But these are the myths that people with disabilities face every day of their life. And they want to demonstrate that they can be just as creative, just as productive, and just as loyal as an able-bodied individual that works in the workplace.
The other big findings that really are interesting to me have to do with health insurance. Let's talk about that.
Sure.
Denial of health insurance.
Well, you know, the great thing about the Affordable Care Act, and I know this has been hotly debated by, you know, political pundits over the last couple of years, but the great thing about the Affordable Care Act is that you don't face pre-existing conditions any longer. So you can't be turned down. But I think the issue that people with disabilities face is if they're on a public benefits program, for example, Social Security disability insurance, they automatically qualify for Medicare or Medicaid. And the issue that they face is that they oftentimes don't want to give that up. And once you start earning income, once you go over a threshold, those benefits start to disappear. And then the issue becomes for a person with disabilities, Steve, is can they afford the insurance that an employer might be offering to them at the expense that they have to pay to enter into that insurance premium? So it varies by employer, by the type of insurance programs that they have, and how people with disabilities participate in those programs.
A couple things. First of all, put up the website if we could. If people want to get more information about the survey, can they find it on the Foundation's website?
Yes, it's right on the homepage at kesslerfoundation.org.
Most significant impact that you and your colleagues at Kessler Foundation want to make and have with this survey is?
I would say there are several things, Steve. Number one, that we want to use the funds, we want to use the survey data to improve how we invest our funds in grant making.
So the Foundation's dollars?
Yes, our Foundation dollars in terms of the investments we make with other nonprofits that are helping people with disabilities find jobs. And so if we can target our dollars more effectively based on the information that we've received from the survey, that's good.
Based on needs?
Based on needs. The other part, Steve, is that I hope that other grant makers, the Ford Foundation, Rockefeller Foundation, the Helmsley Foundation, the Gate Foundation, that may not be focused on disabilities today, will recognize that if 20% of the population of the United States has some form of a disability, cognitive, physical, learning disability, that's a significant number. That is the majority minority in this country. That is larger than the Hispanic population.
It's the biggest minority.
That's the biggest minority population. I call it the majority minority. And if they recognize that this is a significant population, that hopefully they'll spend some of their dollars directed towards helping people with disabilities find employment initiatives. And the third area, Steve, that I think is so important is that our public benefits programs for people with disabilities are out of alignment today. You know, these are over 60 years old, these programs. And in many cases, Steve, they act as a disincentive to the person with a disability to re-enter the workforce. And that's what I hope that our politicians, our legislators in Washington will start to address, is take a fresh look at the Social Security disability income and the other programs that surround it, like supplemental security income, and rework those to make them modified and more acceptable to today's needs. For
Policy
people with
changes.
Policy changes.
Rodger DeRose is the president and CEO of Kessler Foundation. This is an important survey. Go on the website at the foundation to get more information. Rodger, we look forward to continued conversations about these incredibly important issues. 20% of the population. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Steve.
Stay with us. We'll be right back right after this.
To see more Caucus New Jersey with Steve Adubato programs, visit us online at steveadubato.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato PhD and follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
Melissa Walker is president and founder of Jazz House Kids. How you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for having me back.
Wow, you look great. Let's do this. Montclair Jazz Festival is happening when?
Saturday, August 15th, right in Montclair.
Right in Montclair, our hometown. You are my neighbor, and your husband is also, does he dabble in music?
Just a little, I would say. Christian McBride, who's our artistic director, and, you know, he's around the globe spreading music, jazz, and love of people.
Yeah, that's right. Last time we talked to him was at the New Jersey Performing Arts Center. He was fabulous there as well. You guys are a great team, and you've been spreading jazz and music and teaching for a long time. Can we talk a little bit, by the way, this is going to be seen before and after the Montclair Jazz Festival, which is a huge event in our hometown, which people from all over. By the way, describe the festival, describe who comes.
Yeah, well, it's a wonderful day. Actually, this year it actually kicks off on Thursday, August 13th, with an exciting brewmaster. We've got North Coast Brewing Company coming in with their craft beers, going into Pig and Prince and doing a little tasting. Of course, Jazz House giving some music. So we'll kick it off there. But the real pièce de résistance is on Saturday. It's a full day, a no tickets required day, from noon to 9. Over 200 performers. The great Jose James, a rising star, cross genres, an amazing vocalist. The Grammy Award-winning Paquito de Rivera and his quintet. Christian will come out with his Grammy-winning big band, of which I'll be playing in. An array of our faculty will perform. And over 160 young people, ages 8 to about 20, will get on the stage as well. You know, we've got a family jazz discovery zone, which is just filled with a whole day of family activities sponsored by Macy's this year, and it'll bring together the museum, Montclair Museum of Art, and we will do a lot of art projects. The library will come in and do special reads, so we'll be reading books and really encouraging reading with artists coming in and reading in English and in Spanish. Our Louis Armstrong kids will perform, and it'll wow you to see these 9, 10, 11 young people just playing this music. So it's just a full day.
Community event.
It's a full day, yeah.
And our friend Nick Maselli, who we were talking about too, who loves jazz over at TD.
Big sponsor.
Yeah, not only that, but he mentioned this to us. Not only does he love jazz, but he was there the day we were doing NJ Pack. He just wanted to hang around when your husband was performing. Just wanted to hear him play.
Yeah, there's nothing like a jazz fan, and of course
they're hardcore.
They're hardcore.
Explain what it is about jazz.
I think when it catches the bug of jazz, which I think is this delving in this creative space. You know, we don't always have a time in our days to really get into the creative space. And I think when you feel this music, my husband always says it's not about hearing, it's about feeling. It's about in your soul. And it's America's music and story. And so I think there are so many people around the globe where it tells their story and it catches them and it grabs their attention, it grabs their heart and soul. Nick is one of those people, and I think when you couple that with seeing young people.
Yeah, explain that to me, because sorry for interrupting, Melissa, because the whole idea of Jazz House Kids, I'm thinking, these kids haven't seen much.
Right.
And so how do they feel this music that is unfamiliar to them, this great American art form? I'm thinking, how are they even adapting to it?
That's right. I mean, you know, the typical student who comes in just walks in with an instrument. Their parent loves jazz. They have some after-school time that they want them to, you know, be busy. They realize that, you know, getting involved in the arts helps them in the future. But, you know, they just walk in. They don't know what they're in for. But in this culture of success, this culture with these professional musicians who've made it their lifeblood, who have brought communities together, who've seen the best of themselves, who've gotten in front of, like at the festival, 5,000 people and tested themselves. You know, to listen to this music and to sit next to somebody taking this incredible solo, it is electrifying. And we have seen student after student kind of come in like this, Steve, you know, just say, okay, here I am, and walk out and say, I'm going to Oberlin and I'm going to continue to study. I'm going to Juilliard, I'm going to Columbia, I'm going to Montclair State University, I'm going to Ohio State. Music is a part of my life, and they're leaders. You know, they come in as kids and they walk out as leaders who have kind of ignited their passion about learning. That's why I do it.
Is that what Jazz House Kids is really all about?
Yeah, at the end of the day, you know, I'm interested in Christian, our whole team, you know, creating community leaders and global citizens.
Is that it?
That's it.
Because you know, we're obsessed about leadership, hopefully in a good way. I ask people about the greatest leadership lesson they learn very often. And you're sitting there saying, is it less about the music and more about leadership?
Absolutely. You know, jazz is just the tool in the vehicle. I mean, I love jazz. I love what it has done for my life. It brought me to sit before you. You know, 2 weeks ago, it brought us to Peru with 13 students who played for the U.S. Embassy and hundreds, you know, if not thousands of people.
But what does that have to do with leadership?
Well, it makes you a better citizen. You are a part of something. You are not here to be an island unto yourself. You're here to be a community leader. You're here to stand up for your world, to make a better place, to leave it better than you when you entered.
And music is the vehicle. Jazz is the vehicle.
Jazz is an amazing American vehicle to do that, and you will see it. How it has freed people in South Africa, how it led people in Poland, how it helped break down the wall, you know, in Germany. If you go around the globe, as I have, you see how jazz inspired people to rise up against tremendous odds and say, we're here, you are going to make a place for us. That's the story of jazz in America. It's an American story. It resonates around the globe. And I think that's at the heart what we're doing. And the Jazz Festival, no tickets required, bringing in tremendous people from all over, and our sponsors like Gravitas and the Silber Family Foundation, TD Bank, Arctic Glacier, PNC, many organizations, Macy's. They're saying we want to be a part of that, and young people are our future. And I think that's at the heart of what we're doing. And we've got a lot of success to show for it. And if you come out that day,
we'll be there.
You'll be part of it too.
From my house.
I know it is.
It's right, literally.
And if you don't go, you're going to hear it.
That's not even a joke.
Is it true?
Yeah, it's right there. It's a good sound. It's a great sound.
Yeah, that's what we're doing.
Melissa Walker, president and founder of Jazz House Kids, and also a leader with the Montclair Jazz Festival, and together with Christian McBride, you're making some great music. I want to thank you so much for being with us in the public television family.
Thank you for your support and having me.
Good stuff. Stay with us. We'll be right back right after this.
To see more Caucus, New Jersey with Steve Adubato programs, visit us online at steveadubato.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, PhD. And follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
Dennis Wilson is President and Chief Executive Officer of Delta Dental of New Jersey. Good to see you, Dennis.
Good to see you.
Dennis, we were having a good conversation offline a couple of weeks ago about the role of dentists and dentistry. Huge, isn't it?
It's gigantic.
Describe it.
Well, it's bigger these days, especially with the advent of the Affordable Care Act, which created a huge awareness about health care in general, but particularly gave access to numbers of people at several different levels to both health care benefits and oral health benefits, particularly children with the pediatric dental benefit that's required.
What did it do?
Well, it created an open marketplace, for one, that we know as the exchange or federally facilitated markets that people can go on, access different prices and coverages and so forth, and just created the absolute need to purchase coverage to cover their families and to provide for their loved ones.
It's so interesting because oral health and the conversation we got into that was fascinating to me. One of the reasons I wanted to have you here.
Right.
We just started saying, you go to the dentist and people think that there are only certain things you're going to the dentist for. And then you said, you know what? Dentist, a really good dentist through an oral exam can identify a whole range of other potential health-related issues that are huge.
That's
such
right.
as?
Well, first, when you go to the dentist, your general experience first, right off the bat, is a extensive medical questionnaire. It covers the entire waterfront about what's going on with you, what medications you're taking, allergies, et cetera, and medical conditions. Then many dentists are even taking blood pressure these days to check for hypertension. Then when you sit in the chair, the dentist is looking at you, doing a complete oral examination, and this is general practice. They're looking for signs of sleep apnea, as an example. That could be made evidence by the medical questionnaire that's answered, or by certain indications in the oral cavity. And we all know, what happens with sleep apnea, the news as of late relative to transit accidents and so forth. So that's number one. Secondly, evidences of oral cancer, both in the oral cavity and in the back of the mouth and so forth. So a dentist, and they nearly all do this, do a comprehensive screening for at least those two conditions. Secondly, we're embarking on a pilot program.
Delta Dental's doing this.
Delta Dental is embarking on a pilot program in urban centers such as Newark, Trenton, Jersey City, Camden, and other locations, where we are enabling dentists to do a screening for diabetes.
Diabetes?
For diabetes. And we think that's very, very important, because many individuals, as a matter of fact, nationally, about 30 million individuals see a dentist every year, but don't see a physician.
Break that down a little bit. How could that potentially help these patients, particularly these younger urban patients, who might not otherwise be diagnosed?
Well, you hit it right on the head. Might not otherwise be diagnosed because they choose not to see a doctor, or when they do, it's for a broken finger or a laceration or something like that. But when they go into a dentist office, the pilot that we're running says the dentist gets sort of a frontline view of that patient, generally on a regular basis, because nearly everyone is concerned about their oral health, about their oral hygiene, and about their smile.
That's right.
So that's why you go to the dentist. So if the dentist is on the front line doing a diabetes screen, and through the medical questionnaire knows who that patient's primary care physician is, sends the result to that primary care physician, all of a sudden someone that is not diagnosed as diabetic previously is suddenly maybe recognized as having warning signs, pre-diabetic, or in fact a condition.
First of all, describe for folks who do not know what Delta Dental of New Jersey is. Number one, describe it, but
Sure.
Number two, why are you even involved in all these things?
Delta Dental of New Jersey is an oral health company. Specifically, we administer and design benefits around oral health needs, specifically for employers, for individuals, and other populations. And why we're interested in this is because in our mission, we are the oral health leader. We feel that, our vision to continue to be the oral health leader is very, very important. And the connection between oral health and systemic medical health is critical and becoming even more so.
And the dentists who are affiliated with your organization, what has been the response of most of them to, frankly, having to step up and be even more involved than ever before in the overall health care of their patients?
The dentists that we've spoken to about this pilot program are enthusiastic. They embrace it because they view themselves now as being an even more important part of the patient's overall well-being and part of that patient-centered medical home, if you will.
Real quick on the patient-centered medical home.
Sure. With the Affordable Care Act, the whole concept of coordination of care, an individual goes into the system. Typically, it's an uncoordinated effort. Now it's being through patient medical records, through electronic means, and through just greater connectivity between all specialists, including the dentist. That patient is navigated through the system in an organized way. So the whole patient, if you will, their whole health history, including oral health history, follows them, and therefore they have a home, quote unquote.
A few seconds left, real quick. The constant challenge of keeping patients aware of their oral health, huge.
It's huge, and it's a enormous outreach effort, no question about that. We are at the forefront of those outreach efforts. We feel that we communicate well with our nearly 1 million members that we cover in the state, and will continue to do so through coordinated efforts with employers, our customers, and our prospects.
Dennis Wilson, President and Chief Executive Officer of Delta Dental of New Jersey, talking about the importance of our oral health and its impact on our overall health. Thank you, Dennis. Good stuff.
Thank you.
The preceding program has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence, and 13 for WNET, NJTV, and WHYY. Funding for this edition of Caucus New Jersey has been provided by TD Bank, Virtua, NJIT, United Water, New Jersey Sharing Network, Cone Resnick, and by United Airlines. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area. Caucus New Jersey has been produced in partnership with TriStar Studios.